Hi guys, I'm this movie guy, and today I'm reviewing Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, technically I already did this review, but there's a little bit of a story that I wanted to redo this review, and I will get into that story in a little bit. But I'll say, if you're not interested in my bullshit story about why I'm doing this again, and you just want to know what I think about the movie, skip ahead a few minutes, because I'm probably going to make this review long, and I don't care about however long it is, and I don't care about the fact that people are not interested about myself, because I am interested about myself. I want to share my story with you about what I think about the Phantom Menace and the prequels. So here it goes. Last week I decided to slowly build up to Rogue One with watching the movies, reading comics, reading books, watching the Clone Wars, or at least a part of it, because from episode 1 up until Rebels, we got a lot of things in the Star Wars canon that could eventually tie into Rogue One. Like, I don't know what they'll include in Rogue One as far as Easter eggs go, but if I miss anything and people say afterward, like, oh, this was there, and I'm like, God damn it, I should have known that. So I wanted to start with the beginning, and the beginning of the canon timeline is with The Phantom Menace, this movie that I'm reviewing. So I had to watch this movie again, and when I was watching the movie, I thought, like, what is my initial review on this movie? So I went to revisit my review on The Phantom Menace, and after that I watched a little bit of the other reviews for the prequels, and I thought, ooh, these reviews aren't very good. It was like me very close to the camera and poorly edited, poorly lighted, and over the months that I've been doing this, I've improved my setting, at least I think so. And I was like, I want to redo the review so that people can watch my review and actually have a good review instead of the bullshit that I did back then. Because yeah, I was just starting when I was doing the reviews for the Star Wars movies, so I was like, okay, I'm going to redo this. I'm going to make sure that my reviews are better. And my opinion has slightly changed on the movies. Not a whole lot. My grade basically is the same on all three of the prequel movies, but there is more of an appreciation that I have for the prequels right now instead of what I had back when I reviewed them initially, that I really hated them back then, and now I'm like, there definitely are good things in the movies, so I'll get to that. It's actually funny that the same thing happened to the Star Wars movies itself. George Lucas made the movies. He thought, oh, they can be improved, so I'm going to make the special editions. So this is basically my special edition. The difference is George Lucas did it because he wanted to earn money. There is no other reason, because the special editions are pretty bad, just like the prequels. And I am not doing this for money. I don't earn any money of this. I just want to present my best review I possibly can to you guys, and I just think that this review is a better review than I did back then, so that's why I'm doing this. So I also have to explain a little bit about how I felt about the prequels throughout my life, because I've been watching Star Wars movies since I was 10. When I was 10, I didn't have a sense of what are actual good movies. I just like all of them, and with the prequels I was like, oh, it's lightsaber battles, it's cool. And then over time I watched all these movies, quite a lot actually, so I do really know the prequels pretty well, a lot better than I really want to admit. But hey, I have seen these movies a lot of times, and every time I saw these movies I was like, this is not as good as I initially thought they were, because I developed a sense of what makes an actual good movie. I was at one point thinking, oh, those prequels have issues. So that sucked, that my appreciation for these things first went down a lot. At one point I was like really hating on these movies, and now that I've read certain things in the canon and gotten to a little bit of Legends, I'm like, but there are good things in the prequels. There are things that I do like about them. So instead of really bashing on these things, I will just say I do like things, I dislike things, and then I'll get to my score. And I think in the end, you'll get a pretty good sense of what I think about these movies. So let's just begin with saying what I like about The Phantom Menace. The first thing I will say about this movie is that this movie and a lot of other movies have certain ideas in it that I really like. Like, I really like the idea of a Darth Vader origin story. That was the idea of the prequels, and I'm like, yeah, if you could do that well, then I would like to see that. It's just that the prequels didn't really execute that well. But I like the idea, and I actually like a lot of ideas in this movie, but just it didn't work too well for a Star Wars movie. I mean, it had some really cool designs in terms of world building. Like, this movie introduced us to the worlds of Naboo and Coruscant. Really cool looking worlds, really impressive what they were able to do. Like, those worlds are for the most part created in the computer with CGI, and yes, the CGI is kind of fake slash dated, but back then in 1999 people were like, wow, this looks really cool. And the third world in this movie is Tatooine, and they actually show more of Mos Eisley, and they show us the pod race. And the pod race is one of the things I love about this movie. There is one scene in this movie that I really love, the pod race. It's a really cool scene. It has some amazing sound design, like when you hear the pods race. Such good sound design. I mean, that's basically the one thing that is good in every single Star Wars movie, the sound design. It started with the TIE fighters in the original Star Wars, and now you have the pods, and in the next movie you have something as well. So yeah, sound design always is good in these movies, so that is one thing. Another thing, like the pod race is just cool. It's just visually cool, sound design is cool, and it actually shows Anakin as a good pilot. Look, I'll get into that he's a terrible kid actor later, but I will say that in this scene he doesn't really act a lot. He is just like doing the things in his pod, and we see that he is a really good pilot, and that is what we know from like what Obi-Wan said. Obi-Wan said he was the best Star pilot in the galaxy, and yeah, you see that in the pod race. He is a really good pilot, so that's really cool that you see that. Now, the thing about the visuals in this movie is when I see this movie in 2016, it's dated as hell. It's like, yeah, you can see it's very CG slash fake, and it doesn't really work too well. But back in 1999, this was really impressive. There really are some nice visuals in there, but like most of the CG, it's 17 years old now. So yeah, you can see it's dated, but I appreciated what they tried to do with it. And like, I know a lot of people hate Jar Jar. I don't hate him. I'm like, yeah, he's not a good character or anything, but I don't hate him as much as other people do. And essentially Jar Jar is the first motion capture character, you know. If you look at motion capture nowadays, there are a lot of motion capture characters in movies. I mean, in The Force Awakens we had two with Snoke and Maz Kanata, and the actor who plays Snoke, Andy Serkis, basically made a career out of doing motion capture performances, starting with Gollum, doing Caesar in Planet of the Apes, doing it in the new Star Wars movie. It's like, that is thanks to Jar Jar Binks. Whether you like it or not, we got motion capture because of Jar Jar Binks in this movie. Going off the character point, there are a lot of interesting character designs and a lot of interesting ship designs. It introduces to so many different alien species, and while I don't like every design, I appreciate that they try to do so many designs, and I do like a lot of character designs. So it was really cool that they expanded the universe with that. My favorite of the new characters actually is a type of droid, the droidekas, or destroyer droids. Those are cool. I mean, come on. I can't really say anything bad about those. I just like those. And also you have a lot of new spacecraft. Like you have the Trade Federation ships, you have the Naboo starfighters, and the Nubian thing that the Queen flies in. I like those designs. It's really cool that they had new designs for ships. So that's a cool thing. Now we know the acting is pretty bad in these movies, but there are 3 actors that I will defend in terms of acting. Not necessarily how they're written, but how they act. Like Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, and Ian McDiarmid, those three are good actors. Those three give a good performance in this movie, and of course the other two give a good performance in the next movies. It's like, those are good actors. I don't like how they're written, but I'll get into that when I get to the negative parts. And last, but certainly not least, John Williams' score. I mean, John Williams' score in every single Star Wars movie is great. There is a great theme in every single Star Wars movie. Of course, in Phantom Menace, the best theme he made was Duel of the Fates for the lightsaber fight. While I don't like the lightsaber fight itself, I know I have a weird opinion there. I'll get into that in a little bit. I love the score. The score is great. Well, that's really all I liked about this movie. I just can't say anything else positive about it. It's like, I just can't. The rest of the movie is pretty bad. Pretty bad. It already begins with the opening crawl. You see the first paragraph of the opening crawl, and it's about trade routes, taxes, federations. It's like, what the fuck is happening? That's one of the biggest issues with these movies. It's about politics. And they do it in the worst way possible. Most of the time, you see people talk about politics when they are standing or sitting around in a circular kind of setting and they just talk. It's a lot of expository dialogue. It's just boring. It's just fucking boring. I'm not a big fan of politics, but I can appreciate it when it's well executed. I mean, my favorite of the canon books is Bloodline, and it heavily involves politics, but it explains the politics well. It explains it in a way that I like it. In the prequels, the politics are just boring. And this first movie has a lot of politics, so this movie, for a big part, is boring. Probably my biggest issue with this movie is that it does not feel like a Star Wars movie. Everything in this movie is vastly different from what I know from the original trilogy. And that mainly is because everything looks polished. It looks newer than the original trilogy. It's like this is 20 to 30 years before the original trilogy, but it looks like it's 100 years after the original trilogy. That does not make any sense. Why does it look so new? Why does it look it looks too good? I mean, the reason we love the original trilogy is because there is a sense of like, this is a universe that is lived in, like, things get dirty after a while. Yes, that is true. And in the prequel trilogy, it doesn't really feel like it is a world that is lived in. It feels like a computer-generated world that is way too obviously computer-generated and too polished. That's one of my biggest issues with this movie. Now, I already said that I liked McGregor and Neeson as actors. I hate how they're written. Qui-Gon should not by any means be in this movie. In the original trilogy, Obi-Wan says multiple times how he is trained by Yoda.
Was I any different when you taught me?
And this movie takes a big dump on that. It's like, when you would see this movie before the original trilogy, you would think like, Obi-Wan wasn't trained by Yoda, he was trained by Qui-Gon. No, the original trilogy specifically said Obi-Wan was trained by Yoda. So Qui-Gon, fuck off! Get the fuck out of here. It should have been about Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan should have been the only one in this movie. Obi-Wan should already have been a Jedi Master, then found Anakin on Tatooine, and then take up training. And Anakin should have been older. Because, Jesus Christ, Jake Lloyd as Anakin, I cannot even. It's like, it's already hard to get kid actors. So, first of all, don't get a kid in this movie. Just stay away from the kids. Second of all, make sure that if you get a kid, that it's a good kid actor. But no, Jake Lloyd was horrible. The people who say that they love the Phantom Menace because the little boy who was Anakin is cute, shut up. Just shut up. And it's not just Jake Lloyd in terms of acting. Like Natalie Portman, who got a great career after the prequel trilogy. She was great in V for Vendetta. She won an Oscar for Black Swan. She was terrible in the prequels. In all three prequels, she was just... Who cares? Who the fucking hell cares? And then you also have her decoy, played by Keira Knightley, who also is a great actress after these movies, who is also just terrible in this movie. It's like, what the hell happened? Why the hell do we have such terrible actors? It's insane. Another thing that these prequel movies do quite a lot is shrink the universe. It is one thing if we see a character that we know from the original trilogy in this movie, because it's like, yeah, of course, it's a big universe and they're there. It's another thing when you relate them to each other. When you relate 3PO to Anakin. When 3PO was made by Anakin, that's shrinking the universe. When you see the original trilogy, without knowing anything of the prequels, you think 3PO is just a droid from an assembly line. Can be anywhere in the entire universe. You don't really think that Darth Vader made 3PO. Nobody in their right mind would think that Darth Vader made 3PO. And this movie made that canon. This movie tires me so much. It's like the prequels shrink the universe with these kind of things. It also has a lot of contradictions. There are things said in the original trilogy, like I said, with Obi-Wan, who says that he was trained by Yoda and he was trained by Qui-Gon. It's like contradictions and shrinking the universe are two big issues with this movie. Now, something that I said I liked is the pod race. I love that scene. I will say that most of the things about the pod race are great. However, the lead up to the pod race makes no sense whatsoever. There are like 5 bets going on at the same time, involving every aspect of everything that you've seen in the movie. It's like this ship, that pod, this racer, that ship. Everything is way too confusing. It's like, what the hell is even going on? The only thing that you really need to know is Anakin wins the race and they get off the planet with Anakin. That's what you need to know. But like, if you're trying to follow that, it's like, just skip to the pod race. Another thing that I, as a Dutch guy, do not understand at all is how the royalty on Naboo works. I'm Dutch. In the Netherlands, my country, we have royalty. We have a king. We had queens and kings before, and in the future we'll have that, because it is a family. They are related to the original king of the Netherlands, and that is how royalty in the entire world, I think, works. People from a certain bloodline are next in line to become the next king or queen. On Naboo, though, they elect a queen. What the fuck is this bullshit? I mean, it's already something that the politics are fucking boring. It's another thing that it gets confusing, that it gets hard to understand, that it doesn't make any sense. You don't elect a queen. You just don't. That just doesn't happen. You elect a senator, you elect a president, you don't elect a queen. A queen is from a certain bloodline. In every part of this world, it's like that. Don't change it. Don't do that like, no, it's elected on Naboo. No, fuck that. That's bullshit. Another thing I will just quickly mention, I won't go into the details because I think everyone knows how stupid this is. Midichlorians. You know how stupid it is. You just know how fucking retarded midichlorians are. So, I'll just say that and move on to my next point. Which actually is the last point, and this is my unpopular opinion. I don't like the lightsaber fight. There are people who love this lightsaber fight, who say it's the best lightsaber fight. I strongly disagree. Lightsaber fights in the original trilogy are essentially fights between people who actually have a conflict, who have an emotional connection, have a reason to fight. And basically, lightsaber fights are never meant to be visually amazing. It's always an emotional conflict. They always use it to show the conflict. They don't use it to be visually spectacular without any emotion or weight whatsoever. I mean, I like the idea that they try to choreograph more. However, Darth Maul, people say, oh my god, I love Darth Maul, he's my second favorite Star Wars villain after Darth Vader. Because he looks cool. That's the only thing this movie gives you. He looks cool. He has no character. There's nothing to him. After this, they made him a cool character in Clone Wars and Rebels. That made me like him. There's no character to him whatsoever. There is also no connection between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. So when they fight, it's like they fight for the sake of fighting to have a cool looking lightsaber fight. That's not what lightsaber fights are about for me. For me, I want a grounded lightsaber fight where they try to kill each other, where they have an emotional conflict, like Darth Vader and Luke. Darth Vader is fighting his son. He knows that, so he doesn't kill him. Luke, in Empire Strikes Back, is trying to kill Vader because he thinks that Vader killed his father. There you have an emotional connection. There is conflict there. In this movie, it's like, no, it's just for the sake of fighting, for the sake of looking cool. It's like the essence of a lightsaber fight is gone. It's just gone. Like, the initial lightsaber fight was meant to be between characters that have an emotional connection to each other and they have conflict. And the prequels just don't care about that. So, fuck this lightsaber fight. Guys, I think that's really all I can say about The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace is for me a 4 out of 10. So that means that I do like the things that I liked. I said what I liked. It's like it does have good things. But overall, there are so many bad things in this movie that I just can't defend any of it. I just am bothered by it. I don't like watching this movie anymore. I will watch it once a year, twice a year, if I feel like it, but seriously, in the end, it's pretty bad. Anyway, now that I've given my thoughts on The Phantom Menace, I wonder, what do you think of this movie? Do you like it more than I do? Do you like the prequels, or maybe you just agree with me? Please, whatever you think, let me know in the comments below. I will be back in a few weeks with my review for Attack of the Clones, but in the canon timeline, there is a comic, this one, Obi-Wan and Anakin, that takes place between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, so I'll probably review that soon, before I have my new review for Attack of the Clones, so look out for that. And as always, if you've liked my review and you want to see more of my movie, trailer, and Star Wars reviews, click right here.